going to continue reading. Kudos to those who can hang in for this one. At level 3, the choices become mutual. We agree collectively to what reality is. If some course of action, for example, is to be taken, then we, everything and everyone, proceed to create that choice of action as part of the reality. We can choose to overcome pathology, for example, or perpetuate it. Such choices are progressive, emanating from within the holodynes of an individual and spreading holographically into the collective. Our entire menu of options is formulated in hyperspace among our counterparts prior to action. See, for example, Penrose. Penrose is I really like his stuff. At level 4, the holodynamic choice becomes collective. We choose our reality, and that reality is intimately us. We create truth because of our conscious choice, and so all truth is our truth. We choose even those who oppose us and who differ from our views of reality. We choose our friends and our enemies. We choose our version of good and evil. Ultimately, when one considers all the dimensions of reality, we are conscious beings in a conscious universe. All truth is held within our own conscious state of being. This was so friggin' true to me when I seen these patterns of abuse in my family tree. And it is a hard pill to swallow that you are choosing who is in your life because you want a specific experience. Now, I just even uploaded a video today on there's a massive hate group on one that influenced my kids not to do a TV show that would heal us. And it could look like they're really, really negative people against me, but I'm choosing not to. I obviously want them in my life for some reason, on a subconscious level. Obviously, they controlled the outcome of a proposal that was made, and I could perceive that to be a bad thing, but ultimately, if I'm on my course of good, then that influence to take that direction was perfect. So I'm not pissed off about it. I see a lot of people looking and being influenced by that video, but it's offering the conversation of look at how things influence us. And so it gives a balance of, yeah, look at things that are in your life and ask the question, why? Why do you want that in your life? Why is it there? Why do I have abuse in my life? Why did my parents have abuse in their lives? Why did my ex want abuse in his life? Why did his parents want abuse in his life? Why do I have negative people on my channel? And it is like the contrast of good and evil. But you can perceive things to be evil if you want to. I don't choose to look at it evil. I choose to look at it as it's a helpful tool that's there for me, that I'm going to be at one with it. I'm going to love it. I have zero opinions that are negative about it. And that way I start using that tool to my benefit instead of allowing it to totally destroy me. And that's how even the big global challenges don't hate it, because we all want change. Except for if you have a lot of money, then you don't really have any interest in change. You still believe things are going to work because you have all of your stuff, but you're going to be the one that falls the hardest. So that's what we've got to look forward to, is these people that are really, really wealthy, they're going to get hit the hardest, even if they're the controllers of the game, because they're going to find out that they weren't who they thought they were. They need to find out truth, because they ain't living with the truth either. So it's kind of painful. The more you have to lose, the harder it is. So send them some love that they can handle it, because yeah, they may have buttons to push if they get real pissed off. Anyways, we'll all learn. We're all part of a global consciousness, and I don't believe we want our human destruction. I don't believe it will ever happen, because I don't believe on a global basis, we all agree with that. I believe we all have this agreement to be saved. It's just let's get saved before we die. Okay. At level 5, from a holodynamic view, we are intimately involved in generating every aspect of reality, and therefore we have become the truth. We are integrity, faith, hope, and charity. Then at level 6, we are the truth that is, because everything is connected in a holodynamic universe. It may not be evident in a manifested plane of physical daily living, but it becomes evident when one experiences the hyperspatial dimension where the game in the brain is mainly in the planes. It is the experience of the hyperspatial plane that produces religious experiences and is the particularization of these experiences that have formed each theology. Once understood from a holodynamic view, religious conflicts end. It is the experience of the physical manifestation plane that causes polarization. Disease, fractured identities, couple conflicts, and family and social systems dysfunctions are the byproducts of a world caught up in a polarization. Conceptual and spiritual competitions, as well as our lack of concern about other life forms, are the result of particle wave polarization. These problems are overcome within the framework of holodynamics. As I studied the holodynamic model, the implications were immediately clear that particle perception produces linear thinking and results in a materialistic state of consciousness. The great authors of materialism, such as Aristotle, Newton, Copernicus, Locke, and Hamilton, had all helped to create the materialistic worldview. It was contained in the entire school of classical physics. On the other hand, wave perception produced nonlinear experiential consciousness, or mentalism, as proposed by Pluto Augustus, Mary Baker Eddy, Joseph Smith, and other spiritualists. This resulted in a more emotional orientation to life. Sensitivity to wave dynamics, music, art, and humanitarianism concerns, and became the domain of quantum physics. There was no science of holodynamics. I began to test what the typology implied. It did this first among my own clients. These tests proved so successful that the demand for my services increased, and I found myself teaching in small groups and then in larger and larger groups. Solutions to most individual and family pathologies became almost routine. Clients were able to resolve extreme complex problems by taking a holodynamic view, identifying the holodynes and transforming them into their full potential. It was natural and proved universal. My life became a steady routine of facilitating transformations until one evening I asked myself what unresolved problem I could pick to run a test on within the collective consciousness of the community. The first problem that presented itself was that of addiction, testing the model of a drug abuse culture. I had no sooner asked myself the question than I got an answer. That night I had a dream in which I saw a beautiful valley with river flowing through it. I saw a dark cloud enter the valley. It covered the entire community, and then I saw hands reaching up through the clouds. "What are the hands?" I asked. A voice said, "They are the hands of the parents of children on drugs. They are lost in the darkness and are looking for the light and have no place to go." I woke from the dream and could not go back to sleep. The next morning, as I was walking to church, I met one of my neighbors at the corner. He was a friend and taught in the English department at the same university at which I taught. As we greeted each other and began to walk together, I noticed his hands. They were like the hands in the dream. "Ted," I said, stopping him, "are you all right?" He looked at me and fell into my arms. He wept and then wept on my shoulders. Through his weeping, I heard him say, "I have a son on drugs. I am lost in the darkness and looking for the light. I have no place to go." The scientist in me didn't believe that a dream experienced during the night could become a reality the next day. At that point in my life, I did not understand the nature of time, and the therapist in me took over. I immediately began to comfort him and discuss possible solutions. My internal religious believer was trying to make room for the possibility that God was somewhere involved. The therapist won over, and by the time we arrived at church, my friend was calmed and ready to continue his day. There were, however, no solutions to his problem in anything we had experienced, and that bothered me considerably. Later that same Sunday, I received 3 more phone calls regarding the problem of drug abuse. First, 2 different parents called to say they had children on drugs and pleaded for help. "We are lost in the darkness, looking for the light, and have no place to go." It was a very riveting experience. The third call was from a former student of mine in California. She explained she had a brother on drugs. She said, "He is lost in the darkness and is looking for the light and has no place to go." At this time, I was acutely aware that every person was involved in some field dynamic that must be trying to get a very specific message across to me, so I asked her what she thought could be done. She explained her brother was starting a self-help group with some hippies, and they did not know the first thing about getting off drugs. I told her honestly that I didn't know anything about helping people get off drugs either, but she prevailed and gave me the address. That evening, I went to the meeting. It was in an area of town I did not know existed. Isolated as I was in the orderly environment of the university, I was little chagrined as I made my way past the railroad tracks into the dark and poverty-stricken part of the city. I finally found the little run-down house and several motorcycles parked along its side. The door was ajar, so I knocked and walked in. There on the floor sat 7 people dressed as hippies in the 1960s. I joined the circle, sat down, and listened. They spoke English, but I could hardly understand what they were saying. Every week for 6 months, I continued to attend this little group. Then one evening, one of the participants said, "Hey man, are you on drugs?" I told him I was not on drugs. "Well, what are you doing here?" he asked. I told him I wanted to learn how to help parents who had children on drugs and were lost in the darkness looking for the light and had no place to go. It was like magic, he said. "Hey man, we can help with that." The entire group leaned forward and the conversation changed. A lively conversation took place. We began to plan together how to help parents. Almost everything I had been learning came together. I saw how the topological model worked from the theoretical perspective, and I began to see how it worked in practice at the collective level. I could tell when it worked and when another aspect was required in order to get the results desired. I listened, I shared, I learned. Within 6 months, we had more than 600 people attending these weekly meetings. The young people self-organized into self-help groups. They pre-parented people on drugs and began special groups just for parents and family members who had an identified drug abuser. People became involved. We role-played, did psychodrama interactions, and we were honest, open, loving, and enrolling. We explored every dimension of reality, every view of truth, every aspect of life. We were so confronted and yet so persuasive, it was amazing to me. The workload became so demanding that I applied for a federal grant, resigned my position at the university, and became director of what became a major drug rehabilitation program. It provided a natural arena for testing the premises and developing the practical processes of holodynamics. That's why I kind of like these reality shows on addictions to see, are they doing it right or not? Because the drug abuser is not the person with the problem, it's society. You have to change society. You have to change the family dynamics. And without any effort, the person with the drugs just goes away. There is no problem anymore. It's really interesting when you look at it from a different perspective, but we are sustaining everything that we don't like and we don't know it.